A victim solving their own case is remarkable, but have you ever heard of a ghost attempting to solve its own murder? Regardless of personal beliefs, it's always astonishing when the supernatural becomes entwined with a criminal investigation. Often, investigators are cautious about relying on accounts involving supernatural elements, as they can mislead the investigation and, in the worst cases, result in wrongful convictions. Today's story follows a similar theme and remains unsolved. This is the viral Vina Cirebon case from Indonesia. In May 2024, Indonesia was captivated by a new movie titled Vina Before 7 Days. This movie is based on the real Vina Cirebon case from 2016. For a long time, the case remained stagnant, as the police seemed uninterested. Now that the case has gone viral, the investigation has resumed on a larger scale. Since the film's release, netizens have been shocked by the circulation of a voice recording. Reportedly, Vina's older sister made this recording when a friend of Vina was allegedly possessed by Vina's spirit. And surprisingly, the spirit identified the individuals responsible for her death and provided a detailed account of the events that transpired that night. Could this be possible? This revelation sparked a debate about the credibility of her account. Nevertheless, the renewed attention to the case prompted the police to resume a large-scale investigation to verify these claims. Let's begin with what transpired on the night the victims were found. On Saturday, August 27th, 2016, around 7 p.m., 16-year-old Vina asked her older sister, Marliana, for permission to go on a walk with her boyfriend, Peggy, who was the same age as Vina. Marliana gave her permission, but advised her to stay safe. Vina went on a motorcycle ride with Peggy that evening. Unfortunately, neither of their families would see them again after that night. Early Sunday morning, around 1 a.m., a teenager who knew Vina arrived at her house in a panic state. This person informed Vina's sister that Vina had been in an accident and was in the hospital. Vina's grandfather and father rushed to the hospital immediately. When they arrived, they found Vina in critical condition, with multiple wounds, crushed hands and feet, and struggling to breathe. Tragically, Vina passed away shortly after they arrived, leaving her family in shock. Peggy's condition was nearly as bad as Vina's. He had numerous scratches and bruises on his body. The post-mortem examination revealed a head injury, likely from the collision during the accident. Like Vina, Peggy passed away that evening, leaving his family in deep grief. However, Vina's family found the situation particularly strange. Distressed by Vina's condition, her father immediately approached the police, who were at the hospital. He asked where the accident occurred, and the police replied that it happened on the flyover in Kepongpongan village, Cirebon. They said that Vina and Peggy had a single vehicle accident, hitting a sidewalk and an electricity pole. Vina's father rushed to the scene to investigate further. At the scene, Vina's father was puzzled by the lack of any signs of an accident. There was no damage to the sidewalk or electricity poles. He then went to the police station to inspect the motorcycle they had been riding. Surprisingly, the motorcycle was in good condition, with only normal scratches, not crushed or broken. How could the motorcycle be in a relatively good shape while the victims were in such bad condition? This raised suspicions about the accident narrative. Vina's father also examined the items left at the scene. Her cell phone was intact, with no cracks or scratches. If the accident had been severe, these items should have been damaged too. Despite his suspicions, Vina's father had no evidence to support his theory that it could be a homicide case. He could only bury his daughter and try to stay strong for his family. And the case could have been closed as a tragic accident, just like that. But then things started to get weird. 3 days after Vina's death, Marliana received a call from Linda, a friend's sister. Linda claimed to be possessed by Vina's spirit and was crying and struggling to see her mother. Worried and curious, Vina's family went to Linda's house. As they approached, they heard sobbing that sounded exactly like Vina. When they arrived, Linda, in a trance, hugged Vina's mother. This is when the recording mentioned earlier was made. In the recording, Linda, claiming to channel Vina, described that while she and Eki was riding the motorcycle that night, someone hit Eki from behind, causing them both to fall. Vina was knocked unconscious and dragged away by a motorcycle gang, who sexually assaulted her. Her hand was crushed with a large block, her leg was run over by a motorcycle, and her head was slammed on the asphalt. Eki tried to help, but was beaten to death on the spot. Linda, conveying Vina's words, revealed that one of the perpetrators was named Eggy, or Peggy, a boy who was part of the same social circle as the couple. Peggy had a romantic interest in her, but she didn't reciprocate his feelings. Despite her lack of interest, Peggy continued to pursue her, even touching her inappropriately. This disgusted Vina, and she once spat at Peggy. Linda, speaking for Vina, suggested that Peggy might have held a grudge against her and was responsible for what happened. She mentioned that Peggy had fled to Jakarta with 2 other perpetrators and changed their identities to hide. This information was eventually confirmed by Vina's sister, Marliana, who mentioned that Vina had talked about a boy who liked her, but whom she didn't like back. That evening, Vina's family sent the recordings and photos of strange evidence found by Vina's father to the police. With this new evidence, the police immediately launched a more thorough investigation to uncover the perpetrators. They also sought information from people who knew what happened that night, including the first person who reported the accident. It turned out that the first person to report the accident was a friend of both Vina and Peggy, which seemed suspicious. Soon after, a satay vendor claimed to have seen a motorcycle gang convoy near the location on Saturday night when Vina and Eki were out. This vendor also disclosed the gang's headquarters. And acting on this information, the police raided the headquarters on August 31st, 2016, and arrested 8 young men who were drunk at the time and suspected of being involved in Vina and Eki's case. None of them initially admitted to knowing what happened to Vina and Eki. However, under pressure, one of them eventually confessed to being ordered to participate in beating the couple. Further interrogation and examination of the suspects' phones revealed chat messages planning the assault on Vina. In the chat, there was also a detailed plan to lure the victims to the crime scene. This discovery led the arrested suspects to confess to their actions. When the 8 suspects were interrogated separately, almost all of them revealed that 3 more individuals were still at large. Following their testimonies, the police were able to piece together the events of that night. That night, the perpetrators were drinking alcohol when they received a report from one of their friends about a conflict between their motorcycle gang and the XTC gang. Eki was a member of the XTC gang. Their friend asked for help from the MR motorcycle gang to find and confront the XTC gang. And then, Eki and Vina passed by on their motorcycle at that moment. So they immediately started chasing Eki's motorcycle and threw objects at him. They finally caught up with the pair at the flyover bridge in Kapungpungan village. They beat Vina and Eki with bamboo sticks until they fell from the motorcycle. After realizing that Eki and Vina were helpless, the attackers took them and their motorcycle to an empty lot to beat them further. They also took turns sexually assaulting Vina. When both were unconscious, the attackers took them back to the flyover to stage it as a traffic accident. This confession led the police to exhume Vina's and Ecky's bodies to perform autopsies. The autopsies revealed multiple blunt force injuries on both Vina and Ecky, as well as evidence of assault. Additionally, signs of sexual assault were found on Vina's body. With these autopsy results, the police reclassified the case from a traffic accident to a premeditated murder and sexual assault case. On May 26, 2017, the Cirebon City District Court charged 7 perpetrators, ranging from the age 20 to 27, with premeditated murder and sexual assault. The 7 perpetrators were sentenced to life imprisonment, while one perpetrator, with the initials ST, was only sentenced to 8 years in prison because he was only 15 years old at the time. It was reported that 3 other individuals were still fugitives and had not been caught. So the case was closed like that, until the movie came out recently. Just this May, the police released descriptions of the 3 fugitives and asked the public for help to find them. Experts say this case could have been solved easily if the police had considered the possibility of murder from the very start, instead of just concluding it was an accident and not even performing autopsies on the victims during the initial stages of the investigation. According to former Indonesian National Police's criminal investigation chief, Susno Dwaji, when someone dies in such circumstances, the police should ask whether the death is normal or not, and immediately conduct a scientific crime investigation. This involves recognizing the identity and examining what remains at the crime scene, because every crime scene always leaves traces. In Vina's case, one of the traces left behind was sperm on the body. That evidence could have been the beginning of uncovering the case. But strangely, the police didn't collect sperm from Vina's body to compare it with the 8 defendants at the time. The defendant's lawyer, who have been arguing that this case was a simple accident, said police had ignored forensic evidence by refusing to examine footage from a security camera at the scene and refraining from conducting DNA tests on his clients to verify the sexual assault claim. Since this case has long passed, the evidence can no longer be found. On May 17, 2024, the Director of General Criminal Investigation at the West Java Police, Commissioner Surawan, revealed that the 8 arrested suspects retracted their statements, including their initial confessions involving Peggy, Andy, and Danny, the 3 remaining fugitives. They claimed they confessed under duress, citing torture by officers at the Cirebon Metropolitan Police during the investigation. Some also said they didn't know the victims, Peggy or the 2 other fugitives, retracting their previous statements. This retraction posed a significant challenge to the overall investigation and in tracking down the 3 suspects still at large. Following their retraction, representatives from several motorbike groups, Moonraker, Konak, GBR, and XTC, held a small press conference on May 30th. They stated that the 8 people were not members of their motorbike gang. So this raises the question, who did the police arrest? Did they make a mistake in the investigation? On May 26, the West Java Regional Police corrected the error in the wanted list for the Vina Cirebon case, saying that the suspects are not 11, but 9, leaving only 1 remaining suspect. This change happened because the evidence against the other 2 individuals was insufficient. Some witness statements even suggested that the names were fictitious. As a result, the search has been narrowed down to focus solely on Peggy. So Peggy was eventually caught on May 21st. The police said Peggy is considered the mastermind of the murder and could face the death sentence if convicted. Peggy shook his head in disbelief upon hearing the police accusations and tried to resist as the officers escorted him to his cell. He insisted that he didn't murder anybody, claimed he had been slandered, and stated he was willing to die to prove his innocence. He also said he didn't know Vina, nor did he sexually assault her, asserting his innocence. Peggy's involvement in this case has led to mixed reactions. as there is controversy about his whereabouts during the time of the crime. Peggy's parents supported the claim that he wasn't the mastermind and was away from Cirebon 8 years ago. They said he had left for Bandung to work as a construction worker. On the night of August 27, 2016, he was seen eating satay with his cousin, making it impossible for him to travel back to Cirebon, which is 140.5 kilometers away. His cousin firmly stated that Peggy ate, went home, and slept at the construction site that night. Hotman Paris Hutapea, a famous Indonesian lawyer, also questioned Peggy's involvement in this case, despite being Vina's family's lawyer. He pointed out that the evidence, such as a driving license, is not enough to determine Peggy as the main murderer. Additionally, Peggy's motorcycle was claimed by his parents in 2016. After his arrest, as many as 65 lawyers are now reported ready to defend Peggy, claiming he is innocent. Peggy's arrest has raised suspicions due to new witnesses contradicting existing facts. The most recent update is that among Peggy's colleagues being examined by the West Java police, a man named Mel has come forward, claiming to have witnessed the 2016 murder of Vina and Eki. Mel first appeared on a live TV broadcast, providing a detailed account. He explained how he followed the perpetrators and recognized some of them, including those currently being punished. On the day of the incident, Eki contacted Mel, and they planned to ride motorcycles together that night. Eki, Vina, Mel, and Linda encountered 3 perpetrators while touring Cirebon City. Yes, Linda appears here again. Contrary to Linda's account that she was not at the scene, Mel said she was. Mel got separated from Eki after refueling, and soon after he saw Eki being taken by the perpetrators. He witnessed Eki being brutally beaten by more than 10 people. After Eki was incapacitated, Vina was tortured for about an hour. The perpetrators then carried Eki and Vina on their motorcycles and dumped them on the Talun flyover. With the bright lights on the flyover, Mel recognized some of the perpetrators. So Peggy Setiawan's lawyer, Tony, hopes Mel's testimony will clarify Peggy's involvement. The emergence of Mel as a witness brings hope for resolving the case. But my question is, why come forward now, 8 years after the crime took place? I guess we'll have to see how this all pans out, because some key witnesses are already under scrutiny for allegedly lying in their testimony. So, back to the spirit of Vina. Do you think Vina actually spoke about what happened that night through Linda? We will never know, but it has both helped the case move forward and made it very confusing at the same time. In a criminal investigation, it's the utmost priority for investigators to be open to all possibilities and be thorough in their search for justice. A paranormal account can assist, but it shouldn't become the essence of a case, meaning the public shouldn't be swayed too much by it. Linda, who channeled Vina's spirit, recently reappeared in the spotlight after responding to a police summon on May 27th. She had been out of the public eye for many years after the incident because she had been the target of cyberbullying from netizens after experiencing the alleged possession. Her social media accounts in 2016 were terrorized by many people. In her statement to the media, she confirmed that she was not at the crime scene that night. Linda also confirmed that after Vina and Eki's deaths, she experienced possession, something she had often encountered since childhood and considered normal for her. She emphasized that her relationship with Vina was merely as ordinary friends, not as close as depicted in the media. Linda expressed her hope for a swift resolution of the case so that it doesn't lead to misinformation and harm her. So that's the latest update on the case as of now, and more details are emerging as we speak. But the facts out there are really messy. I had a hard time meshing them into a single video, and I think that is because the police are not disclosing that much information on the investigation. Vina and Eki are still fondly remembered by those who knew them. Eki was known as a cheeky but humble boy, while Vina was more shy and reserved. Everyone who knew the couple condemns what happened and demands justice for them. However, given the current state of the investigation, achieving justice seems far off. The case of Vina Cirebon is ongoing. It's tragic and upsetting what happened to the 16-year-old and her boyfriend on what was supposed to be a normal night. So, what do you think about this case? Do you believe that Vina has actually come back from the grave to reveal her assaulters? Or do you think there are too many suspicious elements in the police investigation of this case? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.